This week on the Big Boss Book Club, I'm joined by Hamish from Push the Point. We're chatting chipped PlayStation 1 consoles, the perfect storage solution for all those discs, how much homework should you really have to do to play a video game, and of course, Metal Gear Solid 1. All that and more this week on the Big Boss Book Club. Okay, welcome back. So, with the upcoming release of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, and of course the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, which will have us seeing Metal Gear Solids 1, 2, 3, and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake finally coming to modern consoles, the Switch, PS5, etc. Really wanted to do a deep dive into the Metal Gear Solid series. So figured we'll just do 1 through 5 and we'll do them as a series within a series, as we've done previously with other things. So sadly not going to include any of the Metal Gear games. I've never actually played them. I'm aware of the stories, which we'll probably go into in this episode, but never actually played those games, so they won't be getting their own episodes, unfortunately. Bit of background, these games are all produced by Konami. They're created by Hideo Kojima. To discuss the game, I thought I would grab a guest to come and join me. I figured as we'd have a bit of a break from the usual, what feels like non-stop Flesh and Blood material, I thought who better to come on than a Flesh and Blood podcaster, YouTuber and commentator from Push the Point. Hamish, welcome to the Big Boss Book Club. How's it going, sir?
Oh, dude, thank you so much for inviting me. I feel quite honoured. And when you said Metal Gear Solid, I was just like, right, I get to now sort of have an enjoying flex moment of being able to just ramble on about something else other than Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, I have this conversation all the time with people where I say I don't want to be a Flesh and Blood podcast. The term Big Boss Book Club is not indicative of a Flesh and Blood in any way, shape, or form.
No,
So I've always tried to pull people away from different things like Kagani. We've talked a lot about like Yu-Gi-Oh, and I recently had Red Zone Rogue on. We talked about Dead TCGs because it turns out he's a huge Dead TCG fan.
If you've seen the landfill, right?
Yeah,
There is a lot.
a lot of it out there.
There's a poster of one right behind me.
Yeah, Warhammer Champions.
Warhammer Champions, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got some of that myself. I must admit, I did have the
I
app for
know.
a while.
Mine's in the landfill with the game,
It's
unfortunately. Yeah, I know, I went nuts. But anyway.
So yeah, but to put a bit of context, one of the reasons why I reached out to you, we were talking a little bit before we started. You posted onto Twitter that you were watching the Kefka Productions videos online, where basically what they've done is they've put together the Metal Gear Solid games. I think there's another couple of games as well, but mainly the Metal Gear Solid games, and they've basically turned them into YouTube movies for people to watch. And I think at the time when you posted it, I think I was like one ahead of you. I think you'd posted up 3, and I think I was in 4 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, who is this guy's definitely gonna be someone who's gonna want to come on and chat about this game.
It's nuts. Those movies are nuts, right? I'm telling you now. They if you think Lord of the Rings Extended Edition is like a long stretch, mate, like just Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah,
This movie is like 8 hours long.
It's a long, it's a slog.
Yeah, it's been really enjoyable. Just I don't know. I honestly don't even know what become of me, right? Because I think I honestly don't know. I think I was just sort of remembering the game, and whenever I don't know, might have been some advert, might have been some reference. Someone just said, "Oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid," and then they just showed a bit of a video clip. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that game was nuts." But then I was like, I never really got the story. I never really understood it. It was is massively complex, and I remember playing it. The first one being, for me, playing it personally was the second game, Sons of Liberty, and going, I have no idea what the hell's going on, but it's but I sort of got what was going on in the context. There is like this, well, there's this storyline, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like, okay, but stop the baddies. Yeah,
Yeah.
stop the baddies, and then you do. You don't know what is kind of happening along the way, especially when you're 14 years old. I was playing on the Xbox, and it came out on the Xbox. Yeah, that was my first sort of take of it. But long story short, it was just a game. I was just like, I haven't got a goddamn clue what the hell's going on, but I seem to just love it. I'm
Mm.
just in love with it. So yeah, I decided to watch all of it, and it is still very fast. It's reaching.
Yeah.
It's reaching, but I kind of it's like fantasy. Just accept the reach, and there is there's a lot going on there. I think it's just the thing that I just mostly lost over a lot of it is the sheer volume of characters and
Mm.
how characters that seem to have this huge like reasoning as to why things are happening are like sometimes briefly mentioned, like just a brief mention or some obscure PSP game, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wow,
acid or
there's
portable ops or something like that.
yeah, and you're kind of like, wow, these guys are like really big reasons why we're in this position, and then you just kind of just hear one of them go, "Did you hear about this? That Eva is doing all this sort of stuff," and you're like, "Eve, who the hell is this?" And it's like, "Yeah, that's the whole reason why this whole thing's happening, man. Is because of it."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Whoa, okay, who the hell's this person?" And then even in like later on, they were like, "If it wasn't for the Eve project, this thing would have never." And you're like, "What the hell? This is like another game. What are we on about here?" But yeah, so I went through it all, and I massively enjoyed it. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, yeah. Like you say, complicated is definitely the name of the game when it comes to Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid One though, did you play any? I know I've just mentioned it, but did you play any of the first two, like Metal Gear and Metal Gear Two Solid Snake,
What the one on
like
on
the NES and
the NES? No,
yeah,
no, no. I didn't. No, I didn't. No, not at all. And maybe when because we're here to talk about Metal Gear Solid. I mean, I remember it as there's twin snakes, or it's just in my world it was just.
yes,
I didn't play the GameCube version, which was Twin
yeah,
Snakes. It was just Metal Gear Solid. That was just Metal Gear Solid. I
yeah,
mean, I don't know
yeah.
what I forgot what the title was called again.
It's
Was
well, the first one's just Metal Gear Solid. Then yeah, it's Twin Snakes is the remake for the
Yeah, I say
GameCube.
so. They didn't give it, and they didn't really give it a name then.
No,
But
and then
I
it's just
think
Metal Gear Two Solid Snake, the NES and whatever was before the NES
let me just. I will
games.
say that I never even knew that those two games were out beforehand. But God, I wish I did know because it would definitely make the story of Metal Gear Solid. We'll just call it Shadow Moses because that's the one we all know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it would have definitely made a lot things make a lot more sense because they certainly decided to just jam in like information about people, especially Grey Fox. What are you doing
yeah,
here? And you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
who the hell's like we're not going to tell you why this guy's here. You got to know why this guy's here, and nobody knows why this guy's here because no one played those games at our age
True.
at all.
Yeah, because I mean, this is the game's 25 years old. It's weird.
Yeah,
It's horrible to think about.
yeah,
I was at school, like year 7 or 8, high school. So you like,
yeah,
um, but they crammed like no kid at that age, and I can go back now and kind of appreciate it as an quote unquote adult. But at the time, I wasn't sitting watching 17 hours of CCTV footage of Snake being given the whole drill about everything that had happened, everything that had gone on before playing the game. Just wanted
yeah,
to play the game.
yeah,
Let's just jump in. We're
yeah.
we're in the dock. We've got this stupid mask on. We've got these two guards. This is what I want.
And one of the best like intro musics of all
Oh,
time. It just set the whole scene of tactical espionage,
yeah,
James Bondness to it. Of like this is epic. This is
yeah,
something. And but yeah, I was. I think I know what you mean. I was coming. I must have been in like year 5, year 6, which is kind of like maybe around 11 and 12 ish age. I'm trying to catch my mind around about that, but it was on the PlayStation.
yeah.
I never played it. My dad did, right? Because
Ah.
he got a cracked copy. Oh, don't do that.
Oh,
But
oh.
PlayStation One, you could chip your
Chip it.
PlayStation. Yeah, you know it.
I
You
had a
could chip.
cartridge. I had a
Yeah,
cartridge I
yeah.
plugged in the back, I did.
Yeah,
That's what let
yeah.
me do it.
So my dad chipped the PS1,
Oh.
so he got a chip. So he got the a cracked copy of Metal Gear Solid, and at that time it was. I heard this is a really good game. Everyone like my dad's like probably in his 40s at the time, and he's just like, yeah, I heard this game's like really good, and I was kind of going through this weird stage as well, where he what did he do? He played bloody Silent Hill, right?
Oh.
And we were like kids, and that threw me for six. I had like severe nightmares. That just makes me sound like my family's awful. It was just like blissfully unaware. Kind of knew it was a horror game. Didn't realize how much of a horror game that was. So Metal Gear Solid was then like I just still remember it being like maybe it's just me, but I was like largely terrified because I just don't because that game really, especially when you've never heard, never seen, don't know what the hell's going on.
Hmm.
It's a very suspenseful game, and I just remember being like really scared something, because it's got that same sort of all my friends were playing Resident Evil and Dino Crisis and Silent Hill,
Dino
all these sort
Crisis,
of
yeah.
like those sort of games there. In this game, I know it's totally different now, and you're an adult now. It's not the same game at all. But this top down, you got a gun, and you don't really know what's going on. Especially Dino Crisis comes in as like you're going to come charging in as a military man, and then tables flip, dinosaurs start murdering everyone, and then you just don't know whether this game's going to flip on itself
Yeah.
and be something horror. But it never did, and
No.
it never did. But I was kind of just remember being like just watching it from afar while my dad was playing this cracked copy of Metal Gear,
Mm.
um, and just watching it the whole way through, really, and have no idea what the hell's going on when I'm 11, just terrified some monster's going to jump out.
Yeah. I
That's my story of Metal Gear Solid of watching it as a kid.
I see. I got the remember the I used to get the PlayStation magazine
All
back
right,
when they used to
yeah,
have demos.
right, yeah,
And I remember the Metal Gear Solid demo being like the big front cover
yeah.
game, and I was like, "Oh, this is super cool." And I remember playing the demo. And you only got up to like, I think you got up to the DARPA chief dying. I think that's where you only
That
got up to
just
there.
yeah, but that's like the best bit of I'm not gonna lie. But there's so much of the game, so maybe I'm being a bit too disingenuous here. But that's the flex moment of the game. I felt where
Mm,
they actually turn around and like this open world starting scene bit where we're outside. There's guards all around. They're showing off the footsteps going on the snow. There's
yeah.
cameras. There's vents. All of that bit there just feels like it really does teach you the beginnings of the game in
Mm,
everything. Not everything it has to offer. It kind of updates itself, but the core values of the game is all in that first bit where here's
yeah.
a boss fight, and and I think that demo really does flex quite a lot. Maybe it's just my memory, but I always just felt as a kid I'd never get anywhere further because I just because I was rubbish at it. You kind of just get that far and think, bloody hell, I'm doing really well, and
Yeah.
it turns out you're nowhere near.
No, I agree with you
But
there. Because actually the demo as a as a standalone piece, the demo is actually really good. Like
yeah,
it literally does give you. It's almost like when you go to see a film and you see a trailer and
yeah,
99% of the best bits are in the trailer. That's
yeah,
kind of how the demo is. So you've got the bit where you're unarmed and you've got to
yeah,
get past everyone, you've got to sneak around.
yeah,
Then you've got
yeah,
the bit where you are armed, but you probably shouldn't be shooting people, but you've
yeah. It
still got to
teaches you
sneak
not to
around.
shoot,
Yeah. And then
or
you
you could,
get
but
your first plot twist, and then that's
yeah,
what ends the demo.
yeah. That's it's it, and then yeah. I think anything more that comes from it, um, like I've played through a lot of it, and I just largely remember like there's a lot of blanks. There's a lot, and when I'm going
Mm,
through the film on YouTube, I was like, oh right, crikey, I remember this bit, but why does that bit feel like it's way further away than where it is? Or maybe I thought, and then, or this bit comes in like I thought it was going to be in way sooner, but it's like so far. Like the Psycho Mantis bit is
Mm,
like, oh, that's like not far in, and it's like, dude, that's like ages away. It's like there's
yeah,
so much stuff you got to do before we get to Psycho Mantis, and
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, wow, and Sniper Wolf and all that, and you think, oh yeah, but these are that whole there's a whole big section in between that where I'm just like, I don't know what's happened on this bit, and then near the end as well, there's like, I remember there was a helicopter fight with Liquid Snake, but crikey, there's a lot that
Mm.
happens in between those bits. My brain just can't seem to just remember all those bits. So the film really did um, help help give me a huge refresher as a kid.
It does give you a more, yeah, because like you said, it's been a long time since I've sat and played the game. The realism that actually there was quite a lot of backing and forth in.
Oh yeah,
So
you had to go back on yourself a heap, and that
yeah, like
yeah,
at the end to get the keys, and at the beginning
oh
to get the PSG one, you had to go all the
yeah,
way back. It's like,
that's not a good bit.
yeah, no, it
No,
made no sense to me that bit. It's like, why would I
they just
leave the
wanted to
woman
pad the game
there?
out. Yeah, to
Yeah,
leave Meryl there, you're like, Meryl, I'll go. I'll be back in a minute. There's a sniper rifle on the other end of the game.
yeah, yeah. So the other side of the island, let me run back there, and I'll come back with the PSG
I
one.
know. I love it how like what's it the colonel. He's like, Snake. There's a sniper rifle right at the back of the game. Okay, I'm gonna go get it. It's like not even a like. Sure, there's not another one close by.
Yeah, there's got to be one close by. It's got to be some. Can you get Meryl? Maybe drag her back and get out of the
I
way,
know.
and then go back
And
and get
then
the sniper
and
rifle.
then we get back there, and she's like gone,
Mm,
but Sniper Wolf's still waiting for you.
yeah,
It's like why I can why didn't she come chase me? Like, couldn't she just go somewhere else and snipe me? Well, hey, PlayStation One, right?
yeah,
Let's be real.
that's it.
This game,
Yeah,
the game, like every game back then, you kind of go, why did they do that? Don't worry, it's fine. It's just a game.
PlayStation One limitations. That's what
Yeah,
that is.
but it's
Um,
still such an accomplishment for a PlayStation game.
oh yeah, I mean the so yeah, because the story itself. So we'll look at it as a standalone piece. So even if we don't think about any of the other Metal Gear games,
It
like
wasn't at the time. That's how I
I suppose it
remember it.
wasn't, was it? Yeah,
It was.
first one.
It literally was just confined in itself, and all of us were just like, "There's never been a Metal Gear before. This is like Metal," and it was called Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah,
So it's just the game, right?
yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah, that
it.
was it. That was it. It was just a standalone game.
It as a story, even though we get this plot twist, looking at complexity, it wasn't that complex. Like those twists, but you think if we were like comparing it to the others, I don't think
Oh,
it's anywhere near as like you were saying about Metal Gear Solid 2, for example, which I've got my friend Truan. We're going to be sitting down and talking about that.
oh,
Um,
I'm jealous.
he's
That one's.
he volunteered. He was
Oh,
like, I have a lot to say.
yeah,
So,
I'll bet that one's a corker. But yeah, I agree. The first one's complexities was definitely not harder. I feel that that game probably my best reference to it is and I'm wrong. Happy to be wrong. Someone's going to be but my reference is like the Ocarina of Time of the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
yeah.
Uh, and it was just because it was just so good. It was so redefining on where things were. The storyline, sure, could be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, like Ocarina of Time was, but like it was just really groundbreaking in a way, and it kind of wanted to stand alone on itself. It had this old NES back background to it,
Mm,
but a lot of people wouldn't have came into that, and it kind of just went, you new to the N64, you new to this sort of stuff. Legends of Zelda Ocarina of Time is your first like, whoa, what is this is crazy.
mhm.
And Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation, it's like,
Yeah,
whoa, what is this is crazy. So much so that I think that a lot of the other games like Anchor Point, the Shadow Moses moment
yeah,
as such a key thing that happens in the game, just like they do in Ocarina of Time. They kind of do, kind of don't, but like Ocarina of Time has this like whole branching out to 3 different timelines
Oh
on all the other
gosh.
games. Yeah, I know it's crazy, but like it's such a it makes you sort of go, where does it all fit? And it just goes, yeah, Ocarina of Time was a big moment of like where sort of timeline things go, and Shadow Moses is kind of that same sort of boat, but it doesn't hold up on letting you know of, hey, did you know this character from this guy? Because Grey Fox, for example,
Yeah.
going right, no, and he's the
Who is
really
he?
cool ninja that we actually all want to know. And then this reveal is Grey Fox, and it's like, oh, why does Snake seem to know about this guy and I don't? And it's just
Yeah.
really weird when Snake isn't you. Maybe that's also what's appealing about it as well, is that you kind of feel like most of the time when you're playing a computer game that your knowledge of what's going on around you is kind of the same as the character, right?
Yeah.
And what makes this kind of really stand apart is that, you know, no, Snake isn't you. Snake has got his own background, and if you're not caught up with Snake's story, you're not going to know why Snake knows this guy.
Mm.
And it's like a film, really. It's a
Yeah.
film. Like if you just watched episode 2 of, I don't know, if you watch Lord of the Rings, they're not going to turn and go, right, I guess you're just going to experience Gandalf as how Gandalf sees it. It's like, well, did you know why Gandalf feels this way about this guy? No, I didn't watch the last one. Well, you're in a load of shit then, really, aren't you? Because but it's just really wild how they just turn around and just did that, and they don't even pretend. Like they do it. I think they did a little bit. Maybe they did a little bit where they just turned around and went, "Oh, do you remember Grey Fox from this mission? Yeah. Well, I thought I killed him, but you
Mm.
didn't. No, well, I thought I did though." And it's like, "Oh, okay, cool." But what? I was like, okay, I didn't even know there was another game,
Yeah.
but I wish I did. I was like, oh, fair enough. And yeah, it was a heap of that, a heap of that. Of I feel like I should just know what's going on, but I don't. And
Yeah.
maybe, do you know what I mean? The game really makes you feel like you should know what's going on,
The
and you feel
CC
stupid.
well, there they did all the CCTV stuff, which kind of sets you up for the mission and tells you about it. It's almost like they relied a little bit too much on you doing homework before starting to play a
That's
game.
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, yeah. Like
They don't stop. They're
they
just doing that.
I know they had. I seem to recall on the disc you could read what happened in the previous 2 games, but you had to
Oh, you see, I got
obviously
a cracked copy, right? So
sit and
you do realize I'm walking in blind here.
you had to sit and read through it, which was just rubbish. And then they had all the CCTV footage and stuff. So you would
Oh,
then
really? So in the game, it actually had the whole backstory.
yeah, but it's not in the game. It's like it was just like this random like bonus option, like bonus menu, and it just had
Oh,
all
what
these
in the
like
game?
yeah. Well, in like the start menu,
Oh,
like the
right.
start menu, you had to
Yeah.
scroll down. There was like a bonus bit or something like that. I can't remember what it was called exactly.
Right.
And it had all these CCTV videos that was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Snake on the sub, like sat in supposed to be naked in shadow, so you can just sort of see him, bits and bobs
Yeah.
of him. He just
Yeah.
barely moves. You just see a cigarette in his mouth,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
like they're talking to him about Liquid Snake and Foxhound and all this. It's like there was a lot of video to watch, like a lot,
Right.
and it's like I'm not sitting watching all that before I'm playing this video game.
No. No. Of course you won't. Of course you won't. But you kind of had to, and it feels weird because even then, like, I kind of feel like I would now, but I think actually, well, if you think about it, I don't know actually, because if I was an adult back in, when was it out? 1999 or something,
I bear with me.
or 98, or so? Oh, I don't know. So
1998. Yeah.
98, yeah.
Yeah.
No YouTube. Still
Nope.
using VHS.
Yep.
DVDs are the new trends and CDs and stuff. Maybe
The
I'm,
internet is new and fancy, and
yeah, all that. Would I watch it? I don't know, probably not. But I feel like maybe if I really love, but then games aren't what they are now. Our passion and love for computer games was definitely not the same as
no,
There was a lot of people that love games, but it wasn't what it is now. So do you? And people will do this now for a game. They would do this now, but
mm,
they wouldn't do it the way they did it in the game
no,
back then. You just go, bro, there's YouTube. In fact, I just did it, didn't I? I just
yeah,
watched I just watched
yeah,
a 4-hour film.
yeah.
So clearly I would do it.
Clipped from a video game. Yeah, exactly. That's it. I mean, in fact, the only reason I even knew about it, if I'm being completely honest, because once I finished the game, I just was scrolling the menu, thought, oh, what's this? And I hadn't
I
seen it
didn't
prior
I
to
didn't
playing the
do any
game,
of that.
so I had the exact same experience as you. So, Grey Fox, the ninja, it's Grey Fox. I was like,
Yeah, I was
who?
like, oh, I know. You just feel dumb,
Yeah,
and you just feel like
I should know.
I should know this,
Yeah.
but I don't. It's Grey Fox.
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty certain that name's not been mentioned up till now. It's
Pretty.
the first time I'm hearing about it.
Oh yeah. No, no,
Um,
fair enough.
yeah, just yeah. The game looking at it, it expects you to do a lot of homework. It either expects you to know the previous two or do a lot of homework to know what
Yeah.
you're playing as
I
now.
still think the people who went through the previous two still didn't even know what the fuck was going on. Like
No,
they wouldn't know. They would be like, I don't know what's going on here. There is probably a much more basic plot point, and they must have had a bit. Oh, I'd love to see if someone who played the very first Metal Gear walked in and went, "Was it a basic plot point? Like, was it just tactical espionage with a twist at the end? Pretty safe, wasn't crazy." And if they turned around and went, "Nah," they talked about stuff that happened in Snakey and has never even been made yet. But they probably wouldn't have. But yeah, if they did, it was like, oh yeah, it's Big Boss. Oh, yeah, and that was another thing as well. It's the
yeah,
boss.
yeah,
Who's the boss? Who's
yeah.
the boss? It's Big Boss. I want Big Boss's body. And you're like, who the
Who's
hell?
this
Who,
guy?
who
Yeah,
is the Big Boss? Is like Grey Fox is one thing. Big Boss is just like what? This whole thing is around Big Boss's body.
yeah. And we've no idea who this guy is. No
Not a
idea.
clue. Not a clue. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry if I'm detracted
No, no,
from your topics.
no, no. I mean, this is it. Like, I so a little bit. Okay, so essentially, that's how the name Big Boss comes about. For
Yeah.
me, me and my friends, we were all huge Metal Gear Solid fans. We were all playing the game, and we all decided we were all going to take the code names, and we were all going to have the code names of the
And you're Big
characters.
Boss.
No, no, I
Oh.
wanted to be Liquid Snake because
All
he
right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
going later on. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
go into why later on. But a friend of mine was like, "Well, I want to be Liquid Snake," and I'm not very good in conflict, so
Oh,
I was just like,
that's not very
"Okay."
Liquid Snake of you.
It's not very Liquid Snake of me. I was
No.
like, "Go on then, mate. You have Liquid Snake then." And I was sat there for ages looking, and like the only names left were like
Ocelot.
Archon. No, Ocelot was gone. Even Ocelot was
Oh,
taken.
what?
I was just
Ocelot would have been
like,
like, oh, okay, you can have
uh,
Liquid Snake.
there was like Archon and I can't remember who else. I was like, I don't want to be any of these people. And then I was watching the game, just playing the game and watching the intro. And it said they want $1 million and Big Boss's body, and I went,
Big
"Oh,
Boss.
that'll do."
Big Boss.
I went,
Yeah.
so that's where the name comes from. So
Awesome.
25 years of the same gimmick. Um, the
And we're here. It's all
giving
come
the
full
Undertaker.
circle.
That's it. Yeah, giving the Undertaker a run for his money. Um, but like, yeah, it's just crazy that the whole game has this ominous presence, but you've no idea who this guy is unless you watch all the 3.5 hours of CCTV footage and read the 17,000 pages of text about what
Oh
happens in the
yeah,
previous
sure.
games.
It was you just found out, but then even when they were like, we're like later on down the points, so so we're going through all these amazing moments in the game. You're the guys seem to. clock it's you because you're a, and you're kind of like the James Bond. That's how I sort of pictured it. You're like the James Bond. You know, you're Solid Snake. And these guys are like, they send in Solid Snake, and then kind of like
Mm,
going, don't worry, we expected Solid Snake to show up. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're well known for your stuff, but I'm thinking just like surface level, or you're just a famous dude.
yeah,
But they're like, oh no, well, it's much deeper than that. This is like far, far deeper than that. But then they were going on about like, are they from Foxhound? Well, it's like, I thought Foxhound was dismantled. And what the hell
yeah.
is Foxhound? And
What's
it's
a
like,
fox?
yeah, I know. It's like but you were part of Foxhound, weren't you, Snake? It's like, was I? It's like you're part of. Oh my god! I'm like, okay, this is much deeper than this. And then it's the twist. It's like, I'm your brother, and it's like, whoa, okay,
Yeah, we're clones and we're brothers.
what?
It's like,
Okay,
uh,
okay, we're Big Boss's clones. It's like, oh right, okay. And then the thing that actually used to freak me out was people dying randomly, you know. And
oh
they're
yeah,
like, oh god, it's like
yeah, fox death.
yeah, and it's just like, oh whoa, what's, and that freaked me out actually. I was like, oh god, here comes the twist, here comes the jumpy parts, and it's like people just randomly dying. It was actually kind of spooky because you just like, you know, what?
Yeah,
What?
because
He died of a
obviously,
heart attack. Okay.
yeah. I mean, that ends the demo. You see in the DARPA chief
Dying.
puppet. Yeah, that's what ends the demo. So it's
And
like,
that's quite a violent death scene
yeah,
for a kid in that, and it isn't. It presented it in such a way where in a PlayStation game, it was like, oh,
visual.
it's very unnerving.
Yeah, there's lots of like visual to it. It was lots of like the camera kind of like
Yeah,
flashing it,
yeah,
not flashing
and
in and out,
then
but zooming in and out and
yeah,
waving.
and the game seems to have this thing where whenever it turns the camera real quick, and it was a very PlayStation feel to it, where they kind of like the image just dragged a little bit as well, like it just
Mm,
whooshed around. And if you go
yes.
back from the old play, that's how they just used to go, and you see the like everything was a bit whooshy. So when
Mm,
they're changing cameras and everything, it was all like, oh wow, like it isn't just like, it's not 4K, it's not
no,
like,
no, no.
it's very cinematic. Like, and I don't know, it's very not cinematic, artistic in
Yeah.
the way that they did that in a PlayStation game. I can't really remember other games having that same vibe and feel to it in terms of the presentation of the camera work and how the game sort of flowed in the cinematic trailer parts.
No, I think the closest in terms of size and thingy of games I played on the PlayStation would probably be like Resident Evil
I thought
and
you were going to
Dino
say
Crisis
that.
2.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's actually something I was going to bring up as well, like because you mentioned it slightly earlier,
Oh no,
and
it
it's on my
reminded me of
list of
Silent
things.
Hill. Actually, that was what it was. Silent Hill has
Yeah,
that same sort of. Maybe it was just a PlayStation feel to it, and it had that
could
hot.
be.
It's same had that same sort of horror, a nerve
Mm.
vibe to it all.
Yeah, I mean, you saying about the table flipping over and the dinosaurs attacking. It's like that. This is kind of the tables flip. The
Mm,
dinosaurs attack. This guy, you've had a pretty easy ride. It's all seemed
yeah,
pretty
it's
fine
your
up to now.
tactical espionage.
Guy is
Death.
suddenly dying of a massive, horrendous, very visual, heart, quote unquote, heart attack.
Well, it was a heart attack. It technically
Yeah,
was a heart attack.
was yeah,
Well, yeah, but with Fox Die makes you have a heart attack.
yeah.
That's
Um,
yeah.
but what I was going to say is what you said about like visuals, and you mentioned it earlier about the camera angles. Does this game? One of the things I didn't like about this game, and they did rectify it later on, was actually how the camera angles were handled, because it felt at times very almost, it wasn't as bad as Resident Evil, but
No,
there was definitely a few moments where it was Resident Evil adjacent.
I think what is how I feel about it now, about and where I feel and how games are now, or then. I mean, then I think it was deliberate, right? Like
Mm, tense.
it was deliberately trying to not make sure you can see everything, but at the same time, you always can because you can always look down the lens of your gun to sort of know where you are. And I think the whole point of that was deliberately meant to go, well, how do we make this map work where there's guards there? But if you just did the whole thing in first person, it's like it just makes it look really stupid how these
Yeah.
guards cannot see you.
Yeah.
But
You've
it
got to
had
be in the
this,
cone. You've got to
yeah,
be in the little
yeah,
cone or they can't see you.
and it reminded me very much of Abe's. Like I played a lot of Abe's Odyssey,
Okay.
so it's very much panel to panel to panel.
Mm.
So the field of view was based on what panel you're in. So for me, when I was playing that game, I was very much just like it kind of feels a bit stupid, but it kind of just makes sense, and it makes you walking through a door and going through a bit like I don't know what's around the corner. I don't know, like, and when things kick off, you are like, oh wow, like I can't just be just just go
Yeah.
like you are in first person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like I've got to sort of set up. I've got to be here. I've got to have my finger on this button to get into this mode and hold my finger on this. But it's very deliberate, complex
Mm.
control mechanisms with very awkward camera angles,
Yeah.
which sounds awful to play as I mention this, but it's really weird how that just doesn't matter in my opinion. I don't know. It just feels like yeah, that's what the game is. It's part of the charm of it
Yeah.
all is the awkwardness of the camera angles, the awkwardness of this. Because as a PlayStation One game trying to make something of that scale and scope, you know, the the limitations quote is sorry, my son's deciding to jump into this. No. So yeah, the limitations of this is just all part of the uh I suppose it's the way they're able to make the game work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was kind of similar in Resident Evil, even though everything was really tense. But you could, even though you didn't have the first person element in Resident Evil, there was
Mm.
you would always see the zombies before when you always got an opportunity to shoot them,
Yeah,
even though the angle was horrible and you couldn't see what you could hear it coming down the corridor. Eventually, you would see it and you could shoot it. So I
yeah,
always thought that Metal Gear had more of a weird. It wasn't over the shoulder. It was kind of like almost like a weird, like 45-degree angle
yeah. It
overhead.
was it had top down moments.
Yeah,
It felt very kind of top down at certain points, and then just yeah, like you said, 45 degrees. Never. It only ever went straight
yeah. It was never like
on
over the shoulder, which was
yeah, like a third person
yeah,
game, only on select bits. But what makes it so brilliant is that when it does that,
mm,
you know, you just kind of go, well, something's coming.
yeah,
Well, something's coming, or this bit we want you to look at is like a memorable moment section of where
yes,
it will go, and that's my point. I think that's the genius of the camera angles is it feels so awkward at certain points, and that's part of the charm. And the camera, it turns out the camera angles on games largely does dictate the like the point of us of watching a film.
mm,
It goes instead of it going here is a piece of dialogue, and otherwise what HBO does is here is a sex scene, and while the sex scene's happening, we're going to dump some critical information. But we know that you're going to listen because there's the sex scene about to happen. So we know that you will listen. So here is the critical information part. This one does it in camera angles
yeah,
where it goes, oh, hang on, that doesn't feel. This looks. What's going on here? It's like, aha, got
mm,
you looking. Now it'll go and say some
yeah.
point.
Like I suppose the thing that jumps straight to mind with that is when you're going into the hangar, you first see Metal Gear. When you actually see Metal Gear properly,
Yeah,
it's this corridor. You're running in, the camera is flat behind you, and you get in, and then the cutscene happens, and you look up, and Metal Gear's
it's Metal
there.
Gear.
It's like, oof,
Oh
okay.
yeah, Yeah, and you kind of just look at this thing going, I hope I don't have to fight this thing. And because I mean, you just look at it, and
Yeah,
you're trying to stop this thing being some. Well, it is a tactical nuclear weapon with lasers, and it looks like a goddamn monster for
yeah,
Christ's sake. And then yeah, like well, plot. You kind of just know deep down plot twist. You do fight it.
yeah. I mean, you also the fact that the revelation that Snake is supposed to have tackled two of these previously.
Yeah, and you kind of go, oh, he's like, oh, I've taken out one of these before, and you're like, okay, well, I kind of had a hard time dealing with this little scrub boss near the start, so I don't, you kind of just sit there and go, Snake, you had a really rough time getting here because you're piloted by me, so
Yeah,
it just seems really like.
I
And
love
then
it.
he's like, I've taken out these tactical news before. It's like, Snake, was it? I don't know
Well,
who was piloting you.
certainly
Certainly
wasn't me.
wasn't me.
I did not have the PlayStation controller at that time.
I
I
did
don't
not.
have a
I
NES.
didn't. Yeah. Oh god, you must have been really good before I showed up. And then yeah, and then turns out they build Metal Gears with very critical weaknesses that you seem to have a weapon for, which
Of
is
course.
it's always very handy. Very very handy. That's what makes Snake so good.
Mm. It's always the same with anything like that. So again, I know I'm making the comparison again, but Resident Evil is a prime example of this.
Yeah.
Your tyrant has this massive, almost fluorescent heart on the front of him that just screams,
Shoot
"Shoot
me.
me!"
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. I
like,
know they got to do
okay,
something right. I'm trying to remember what they did. What the because when it went into sort of like I think it was just genuinely. Oh, what was it? Was it rocket launchers? It was always rocket launchers. It always will be rocket
oh yeah,
launchers.
it's always rocket launchers.
But I remember they had like if you had to sort of throw the jammer. I think you had to throw the jammer, and
Chaff grenade,
then the chaff grenade to make the thing goes. Oh, I've lost my signal, and then you have to shoot the signal or
yeah,
some
the
bit on
radar,
him. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's what did it. And then Grey Fox rocks up, and some amazing, of course. But then there's some amazing cutscene fight with him going, and then he kills him. But he does his final move where he throws his sword into it. So now we can just go freeloading rocket launchers into Metal Gear Solid all day long.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then you kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, seriously, everyone has a rocket launcher. I don't really know what this thing would have done if it actually walked into it and then some helicopter with missiles just showed up and just actually, all four helicopters with multi missiles. I would have been like, yeah, yeah. Well, wouldn't that just take it out? But I'm sure somewhere in the story plot will go, no, no.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah,
has
yeah.
Metal Gear has this jammer on
It,
helicopters.
it does seem very thingy. Like my argument, I remember at the time was, well, if we're throwing these chaff grenades and that's jamming his radar, and we need to destroy the radar, and then his mouth will open. Why
Oh
doesn't he just
yeah,
open his mouth when he throws chaff grenades? And then he can just see anyway.
yeah, yeah.
There's lots of arguments
Oh
for
yeah, go
how
on.
this is. I always say this to the missus when we're watching TV shows. I always say if we
Yeah.
start quizzing this really intensely, this is all going to fall apart very
Oh,
quickly.
100%. But just enjoy it for what it is. And just keep reminding yourself it's a PlayStation game,
It is a
and
PlayStation game.
it's still very much that. Let's we can't beat around the bush with the fact that the game doesn't tell you what to do at
No.
all. So when you're watching the film, you just sort of goes, "Oh yeah," you just watch them just instantly know what to do. But when you start this thing off, you had no idea what to do. And this thing was
No.
firing lasers, its own rocket launchers, and you died a lot. You died a
Mm.
hell of a lot trying to work out. And I still think every time you're doing it, like I will go. Actually, this does remind goes to this point, which is one of the most biggest revelations and still one of the best bits about the game. Full stop is the codex.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just and then
Oh,
it just all of that is just like wow. Like how although mental, how it just goes, you could save your game if you just go to frequency 0519.24. and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then luckily someone just goes, I've just made a thing that you can just go there and do it, and like, oh, thank God, because there's
Yeah.
no way.
I'm remembering all these codec frequencies.
Yeah, and you're like, save the game on what frequency is that again? And then it's just like there's just hundreds of thousands of options. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Speaking of the codec,
yeah,
just reminded me. You said your dad had a cracked version.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Don't,
I
yeah.
I rented it when I first played it. I rented it.
Oh no.
So as soon as I got to Revolver Ocelot, I couldn't
Yeah,
go any further.
yeah.
I'm assuming did you come across the same issue?
My dad played it for a very long time, and yes, we had no idea what's going on. And then all of a sudden, my dad just came back and he just said, I was just speaking to my friend who was playing it. And then he's like, oh, yeah, yeah, it's on the back of the box.
It's on the back of the box. The
Yeah.
codec
And we're
frequency
like,
is on the
my
back of
dad,
the box.
I know, my dad was like, well, I've got a cracked copy. I don't own the box. He was like, oh, do you want me to? Here you go. Here's the thing. And my dad had to get a pen and paper and write it down and bring it back. And he's like, I found this thing. It's like, oh, what's happened? It's like, yeah, you got to codec this person on the back. It's like, yeah, I was going to mention that because that is obviously such a massive thing. And yeah, that how ridiculous it's ridiculous, memorable, unnecessary,
Oh yeah,
but and I'll say memorable again. How it's completely unnecessary, but
yeah,
absolutely it bakes into the experience of it. And if you know what to do, and it's that whole conversation in, like, when it's the conversation of discovery,
yeah.
and that's what's making the modern, it turns out that's what modern games that are selling massively well and having critical acclaim are doing, i.e. Elden Ring, i.e. you know Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and the Tears of the Kingdom, right? Just to name them alone, they go, "Oh yeah, there isn't a hand-holding experience," and then you go, "How am I meant to find this? That's ridiculous." And it's like, yeah, but when you do, and you remember it, and it's yours, and it does feel outrageous that you've got to figure this out. But there's
Yeah.
just something about it that says, like, don't worry, we're we're not all, just have confidence in our intelligence. Although a codex frequency on the back of the box is that was pushing it a little bit, I will have to
It
say.
was definitely pushing it because, like I say, I rented it, um, and put it into context from the old Blockbuster video. Rewind.
Yeah,
Um, they had these generic yellow Blockbuster branded boxes that they gave you the games in,
yeah,
and there was a little piece of paper in there with like, "This is Meryl's codec." It was just I got to the demo where the demo ended. I
yeah,
played another 15-20 minutes, and then I could not get any further. I had to. I didn't get any further until I got bought the game.
yeah.
That was how I managed to progress.
Oh, it's wild, isn't it? It's and then what else? And then the Psycho Mantis fight.
Oh yeah,
They kind of tell you what to do after a bit when they
mm,
go, but it was just like, what am I meant to do? How on earth? This guy cannot be shot. He cannot be hit. He knows everything I'm doing. And then, yeah, he just goes, take your controller out of port one, plug it into port two. And then the second you do that, they'll go, I can't read your mind. All
yeah.
that. And then as well, the fourth wall breaking, put your controller on the on the thing, and I'll make your
Yeah,
controller move. And
yeah.
then he'll go, I can also read your memory card. You've played Crash Bandicoot lately. And you're like, what? How do you know this? He's like, how does he know my memory card? And I was like, how mental does this have to be to
Yeah.
remember your memory card
I
state?
mean,
Like, he just read that. I was like, why would you put this into a
what you do?
game?
I mean, like we were saying about like limitations, but that was something that definitely fell beyond the scope of what you would expect.
But
Like,
they obviously, I imagine it was probably not the craziest thing to do because it's just data, right? Just gather,
I suppose.
gather data on this bit, but no one found a creative way to make it. Why would anyone want to know this? Like, why
Mm.
would we need waste our time putting that into the game? Which 9 out of 10, you're right, unless you develop a psychic
Yes.
dude
A
that's
psychic
going
mad
to
guy.
attack you. That happens to be we want to break the fourth wall. Okay, well, what a treat that we've all received. That this and he even tells you how many times you saved your game as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you're a coward. I can see saving your games this many times. You're like, God, I didn't even know that. He's just making it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, the whole Psycho Man is probably my favorite boss fight. Actually, is phenomenal. Um, yeah, like the whole, and again when you talk about like the horror element, that's another part
Mm,
of the game where actually there is kind of a he's the
unnervingness.
dark, he's definitely the darkest of all the enemies that you
It's
have to fight.
supernatural, isn't it? It's very
Yeah,
much like, oh, okay, all these people are, they're within the laws of reason, right?
mm,
Even though the
yeah,
ninja shows up, he's got all this and whatever. But you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. He still he still like plays by the rules of law. And
yeah,
then Psycho Mantis just shows up and he's like, no, I'm hovering, I'm levitating, I'm controlling people, I'm doing this, and you're like, this is I don't know what the hell's going on now. Like
yeah.
this guy is just breaking all the rules, and that's the point, and that's what makes it very charming at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, because there's the whole bit with Meryl at the beginning in there where she's like pointing at him and you got to knock her out, which is
Yeah,
massively satisfying in some ways.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like, because all you've dealt with is like her just complaining about, I wanted to be a soldier. You're like,
Oh
ah. It's like,
no,
you
yeah.
have to hit, we're going to give you an excuse to hit Meryl.
Oh, that was I do remember her banging on about her being a soldier and how
Yeah,
Jet and Snake is just this absolutely atypical American, like like is just like a like the Tom Cruisiness of it. I was like, oh yeah, I was too busy checking out your ass. And it's like,
oh yeah,
yeah, all
yeah.
that sort of stuff. And it's like, maybe when we're done, I'll show you my walls. And so you're like, oh,
He
it's all
throws some
cliche
lines
garbo.
out though,
Yeah, he
doesn't he?
does. He
And
does.
Mei Ling as well, like, and against Naomi Hunter,
Oh,
like
he,
he
he just,
throws.
yeah, he's chatting up everyone, and everyone's like, oh,
uh,
Snake, Snake,
Snake.
Snake.
Always love that when you die. When you die, it's always someone different.
Oh,
Snake.
it's Snake, Snake, Snake. Yeah, well, it's just the whole thing is just absolutely it's ridiculous, but again, it's just all part of the memory of it. How they're just not they're not scared to like sort of just to take it to these mental levels. Maybe it isn't mental. Maybe it's just kind of this is actually quite normal humor in that in the
Mm.
Japanese culture.
It's sort
And
of
it's the
like
Western world that's just was like, huh.
a bit cringe. Yeah, I suppose it's very 80s action, isn't it? I mean,
Oh yeah, maybe I'm
with
being wrong there. Maybe they're just overemphasizing the '80s action that the
yeah.
Western audience takes.
Well, I mean, my understanding again. I don't want to don't
No,
quote me because,
yeah, we'll probably get
but
it wrong. Don't worry.
the my original understanding was that the character is based on Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken from Escape from New York.
Yeah, no, I think that's what. Yeah, I think so. I think he is definitely for sure.
Because even in two, they joke because in two he's calling himself Pliskin, isn't he?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the poke that the only difference is you're being sent to the island to rescue two hostages, not one, and you haven't
mm,
got a bomb in you or whatever it is in Escape from New York. It's like a virus or something. You'll die in 24 hours, whatever.
right, got you. There's definitely
Um,
a massive nod there.
yeah, like the whole thing. Like we said earlier about like you mentioned James Bond.
Yeah,
He said obviously you can unlock the tuxedo, can't you?
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, let's just shoehorn in this.
yeah, absolutely.
No tactical advantage to wearing that tuxedo, but by God, he looks
Oh,
awesome wearing it.
yeah. You can't not.
Sushi boy.
If he didn't have this tuxedo, there's no way he would be able to succeed.
That's it. What the only thing that really bothered me about tuxedo was you could only wear it for a playthrough. You couldn't select it as an outfit, so you had
Oh,
to save the tuxedo playthrough. You just sort of
right.
save it so you could keep going back and playing through as the tuxedo.
Got ya. Got ya.
It's heartbreaking.
Is that I don't ever remember seeing the tuxedo bit when I played through it.
I think you had to do. I feel like there was something you had to do to unlock it. I feel like there
Right.
was something you had to do in game.
I can tell you now, never did.
Yeah. Did you? Did you? So obviously we get to the torch chamber, which we haven't discussed yet,
No.
and obviously you can save Meryl or you can not save Meryl.
I think if you don't save Meryl, the game's over, right?
No, if you get the stealth camo. If you don't, and you get the ammo, infinite ammo bandana. If you do,
Infinite ammo.
infinite ammo, which they also poke at in Metal Gear Solid 2, but I'll talk about that in that episode.
Yeah, it's okay. Infinite ammo.
Infinite ammo. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
the cringe of it. Because obviously it's the two different things. Did
I can't. I'm trying to cast my mind back on that bit. I don't really remember that being the option. I just remember my dad's thumb was really sore.
so he
Just
didn't
being like,
use auto fire. He
no,
didn't. He didn't
he
have auto
tackled that. He
fire.
tackled that route. We went at
Oof,
that raw.
oof.
It was
Braver man than
hard.
me.
It was yeah. It was a hard slog. I remember we all had to take it. And he's like, "I'm going to do this one," and then we go right, fag, your turn, my brother. We all had to take it in turns just to keep the keep the dream alive.
You see, there's the bit where it's happening. He says, "Don't use auto fire, or I'll know." And I was like, "What the hell is auto fire?" So I spoke to a friend, and he was like, "Oh yeah, there's some controllers like cheapo generic controllers. They'll have like auto fire where you press a button, it's almost like you're just jabbing it." I was like,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I had a generic controller which had auto fire on it, so I was like, took out the official controller, plugged in this cheapo one. I was like,
yeah.
just held circle, just yeah, not a
And
problem.
did he know?
No, never knew. Lied to me. Kid lied
Oh,
to me.
but it's brilliant that he actually knew. Like,
Yeah,
you used auto fighter, I know. And it's almost just like,
like a hint.
yeah, he no, but he's like, he's calling you out. He's calling you out. You got to man this up. But I remember we must have, like, just tackled through it. But I remember that. Yeah, and then it goes into the scene where some guards come along, and you really got to kind of clock on knowing what to do relatively quick because it'll
Mm.
just get pushing you back into torture chamber mode. I know that it is like it makes you do 3 runs of the torture chamber mode in total, like, but you're kind of like, if I don't clock what the hell's going on, I'm going to be back into this thing, and then I'm just going to game over it, and I'm just like, oh, so it really was just like, really do need to actually figure out what the hell's going on. And it turns out, yeah, get some ketchup,
Yeah, just pretend you're dead.
pretend you're dead.
Lie on the floor.
Yeah, and then dude comes in. Huh? What was that noise?
Oh, that's something to discuss. Whose
Go.
footprints are these? Whose
Huh?
footprints are
Whose
these?
footprints are these?
I remember my friend Harrison. We were playing it, and he outside in like the heliport. He just had the same guard for like 15 minutes. He was just running in circles, and
Oh,
this guy was just following him, and he was just like, "This is hilarious. This is
oh
like the
yeah,
most entertaining thing."
but at the time it was just like groundbreaking. I thought, where
Mm.
someone that it was always like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could leave? And that's what that game I think did a lot of, right? Just going, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if you walked, they leave snow prints, and then the guards will be like, what's this? Although they didn't clock large metal smashing noises as you're walking, like bang bang gang 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 gang.
No,
It's like, yeah,
no,
they wouldn't.
didn't
Yeah,
clock
don't worry,
that.
they're all deaf and
Yeah,
partially sighted.
all with all crack soldiers with IQs over 180. Apparently, it's like, yeah, I don't
Oh
don't
yeah,
think
but
so,
they're
mate.
all gene soldiers, aren't they? They even
Yeah,
had some of your Gene.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they're all as dumb as you are. Maybe that's that's probably what makes it so funny. It's like, Christ, I'm actually terrible, but don't worry, we're all Gene soldiers. We're all just
Yeah.
me. Just like, oh my god, really? How did these think? How did these people even function?
Just these
But
simpletons walking around, just like not
yeah,
knowing
and
where
you
they're
just hear this
going.
little, like, you lean against the wall and go like, "Dun, dun, 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 dun,
Oh
dun, huh?
yeah,
Huh? Huh? What was that noise? Dun, 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 dun."
yeah.
Just you got to do it as fast as possible.
Oh yeah. The guards were on their own, just fascinating. Just like, and it's the fact that the game like says they're all geniuses with IQs over 100, and you're like, I don't think so.
No, no, not even close. But for what it was in the PlayStation World game, it it was actually crazy to see, like, someone being able to, like, makes you go, oh wait, they think, they can hear a noise, they can see, like, if you've seen any other game ever, it's just NPC just goes, oh, there you are, and they will just, you know what I mean? There's nothing. It's almost like a perimeter zone, but these ones just felt like it actually, like, picked up stuff.
Mm,
It actually clocked noises and or whatever, and it did sort of bring that realism to life, I think. But yes, in the nowadays, like, yeah, they're absolutely ridiculously dumb.
yeah. You wouldn't need to be like um, in the little triangle to be seen now. They would just see you because
Yeah,
you're just a guy walking across a heliport. It's like, yeah, I can see
yeah.
you, mate.
That's. I think that's for another topic for another time when it comes to Metal Gear Solid 5, because that game was.
Tough.
It was quite literally one of the best games ever made on the Xbox. It's still absolutely the first half of that game. I know we're here to talk about Shadow Moses, but
Mm.
yeah, no. I wish I can be jumped on for 5, because, man, that was genre defying. If I've never felt like that since I played Halo. Sort
Oh,
of like,
really?
yeah, like I played it quite a few. You kind of, when you go, wow, wow, like,
Mm.
wow. Games are so similar. This one just was just like, I said, this is, the graphics are amazing. It is just like that. This is the first time I felt like a game has upgraded now to,
Okay.
like, for in a while. Maybe I'm just so dumb and don't play a lot of games, but like Metal Gear Solid 5, that first half of the thing was just like, you just couldn't believe what sort of trickery, like, just small, just so much small details that just made you go, so if I chop down this, well, if I take down the telephone line and then the telephone line happens to hit them,
Yeah.
well, every game will just go, nothing happened.
Yeah.
But not that it was like, no, electrocute, and you go, that's just, no way, no way did they just put that in. Oh, if I make loads of dummies of me and then I'm also standing there, it's ridiculous. But they're like, huh? Like, and they won't immediately clock you
No.
because you're one of the dummies.
Yeah.
It's just, why would you put that in? But that's what makes it so, like, amazing, right? That they.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Metal Gear
No,
Solid
it's
5.
fine. Yeah, I've got
I have a. I've got to be. I've got 5 minutes.
no, it's fine.
Cool.
Um, so we'll skip then, and we'll get to your favorite things about the game. So, favorite character in the game
Oh, favorite character. I think it's Liquid.
is Liquid, isn't it? Is the right answer.
Liquid is definitely one of my favorites. I think followed by quite probably close to Snake as well.
Yeah.
But the thing about those two characters, I feel like I'm just going to go through and be like, oh no, is this other dude? It would have been, if I was younger, definitely would have been Grey Fox, because he's a cool ninja. But actually, Grey Fox, I don't. Yeah, I wasn't really. I think afterwards you kind of go, he's okay. He was
I didn't know who
when
he
it,
was.
no, he goes, no, not really. Oh, I do like Revolver Ocelot as well, but I think I would put my hand with Liquid Snake.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Liquid Snake is awesome. Just because A, he's the big bad guy of the whole thing, and he's
He's
just hangs around.
he's
Even
clever. He's
there's that.
genuinely interesting, and he
Yeah,
outplays you
yeah,
like
for the whole
for
thing.
the whole thing, like right up to he is definitely cleverer than you
Mm.
throughout the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
He's just arrogant.
Favorite boss fight?
Ooh,
No, we've already
favorite.
talked.
Um, I got two that are my favorites. I really liked the Ocelot fight. That one's
Oh yeah.
incredibly memorable, but it has to probably be the Liquid versus Snake on top of Metal Gear. That one's
Okay.
that one's just a
The
really
fist
cool
fight.
the fist fight. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
and he just dung 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 dung, and you're like, oh, and you had to get your move sets down, and you generally he would get you and you get him, and then you really are like sometimes just scrapping, and he
Yeah.
is dodging you, and it's just something about that that's just like very like quite tough, and it's just a huge part of the plot point that I just always remember of Metal
Yeah.
Gear.
You see, I had mine down as Psycho Mantis just because of the bonkers
Yeah,
prelude to it, and then the switching the controls over, and yeah, it was just mental.
that is a tough call. I don't know why, but those two just seem to if it's stuck in my brain when you mention about a game, and then you only have like 2 seconds or 5 seconds to make a choice, and then the first thing that comes to your head, there's something about that that makes me think, well, these clearly are massive, must be really big things because that's what I snap remember. But then you
Yeah.
give it time, and then you go, oh yeah, yeah, and that was good, and that was good, and that was good, and that was good. But those two things just go boss fight. Those two things came to my head straight away, and they were very good.
Favorite weapon? Because it gets a
It's really
wide
weird because
assortment.
yeah, but I the weapons are the things that never really like massively stuck out. But there was only one that I love. That if you you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool. It was just the guided missile launcher.
Oh, the Nikita rocket launcher.
Oh yeah, just do 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 do,
Yeah,
and you think, oh wow, I know. And I just remember as a kid going, I can't remember guided missile launchers being so much fun.
yeah. And once you've got it, they seem to put you in things with like, "Hey, you should use a remote control missile. Hey, you should use a remote
I
control
know
missile."
they really do just turn around and go, "It's remote control mission time." Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, I understood. There's absolutely no way you can possibly walk through this absolute ginormous electrified room full of electric where the air is everything's. You really can't walk through here. It's impossible. Apart from the thing is just over there, but there's no way you can ever walk there.
no.
Hey, there's a missile launcher on the floor. Maybe you could use.
And
Maybe you should
later
use your
on,
guided nickel. Oh, really?
when you're fighting Vulcan Raven later on as well, it's almost like, well, he's going to stand and shoot. You could use a remote control missile to shoot him. It's like, oh, okay, okay,
Uh,
I see what
I
you're
think
doing.
in the end, did you had to do that in the end? Because I think there were certain points he was actually just
Yeah,
you had
you
to try,
could have.
you had to actually try and bait him
Yeah,
because
you
he would
could.
turn around and clock it and kill the missile.
Yeah, you could mine him. Most of the time, it's either Stinger, Nikita, or mines. What you're going to do, or C4,
Uh,
and you'd blow
yeah,
up the C4 when you went near it.
yeah,
You couldn't just shoot him; he'd have
no,
you off.
yeah.
Um, that's really it. So I appreciate obviously you coming on
Ah, no, that's okay.
to
I
reminisce.
hope the audience feels that they really got their full dose of Shadow Moses from the mind of a of a young lad that talks about flesh and blood a lot that got a cracked copy from it. I'm pretty sure you're reliving all of those moments. Although I will say, I reckon how many people will out of this conversation, I'll go, Chip PS1, baby, let's go! Everyone
Yeah,
remembers the Chip PS1. Oh, that will literally transport you back into
just this
1998.
stack of Philips CD cases
Absolutely,
full of games.
not. You got they're all just a CD player with a black pen written on it. You're
Yeah,
going Dino Crisis,
yeah.
okay?
Tony Hawk's one.
Oh,
just yeah.
oh my god! You just threw me into yes, Crash Bandicoot. Oh,
That's it.
now we're talking. Right. Anyway,
So, before we shoot off, I will open the floor to give you time to plug everything and anything you would like to plug before we get out of here.
If you are still living at the end of every podcast, which we know, we do a podcast called Push the Point. It is a flesh and blood podcast. You will sort of say it's a flesh and blood podcast. It's three lads that like to play about flesh and blood, and we talk about flesh and blood in a way, but most of the half is just us catching up as friends. So if you want to hear three British people that are just generally enjoy playing a game called Flesh and Blood, and you want to catch up with our lives, that's what that is. And we're on YouTube, Spotify, and all other great podcast related channel stuff on as well. We also do deck techs and some actual genuine Flesh and Blood content, within the YouTube space. But we started off as a little podcast, and it's the one thing that we most enjoy doing. There you
Awesome.
go. That's my plug.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram at Big Boss Book Club, Twitter, Big Boss010. If you even still bother with Hive Social, we did decide to set up there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you do follow us on all platforms, please reach out and let us know. We'll send you exclusive content. It will be sent through your window attached to a brick, but remember, you probably didn't need that window anyway. Thank you so much
What
for
about pigeon mail? Have you not
pigeon
gone
mail.
pigeon mail yet?
What's
Yeah,
that?
just get your chipped CD of the episode, tie it to a pigeon.
Oh,
Hey, pigeon mail. You need to,
pigeon mail.
mate. Brick on paper is dead.
Oh,
Pigeon mail is where it's at now. That's
pigeon mail.
the new social media drive.
Oh, with it like a USB pen attached to it or something.
Yeah, USB pen is that's a little bit advanced. Start with paper first. Paper and pigeon.
Oh my good lord! Right, thank you so much for listening, guys. This has been Hamish from Push the Point. I'm Big Boss. We are out. Peace.
Peace.